Hi, everybody. It is Thursday, April 30th. I'm Danny Gregory. This is the live drawing party, and let's have some fun. Let's make some art. So, there are a couple of minor changes that are going to happen. One of which is I'm going to take tomorrow off. Um, it's been a daily thing for a while, but I'm just going to take one day off I don't know, to have off, to make some art on my own, perhaps, without you, and to allow you the opportunity to not be assailed by me each morning, to have one morning off. And then next month, which is actually next week, we're going to move to a slightly different schedule. We're going to continue to have a live drawing party every day at noon Eastern Standard Time. However, Coach and I are going to alternate. So she's going to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Instagram, and I'm going to do Tuesdays and Thursdays right here on YouTube and Facebook. So we'll have a chance to draw together in some way every day, but I think that this is a good sign because it suggests that, you know what, maybe things are returning to normalcy. Maybe you don't need us anymore. Maybe we can all go back to socially distancing from each other. But I don't know. I really enjoyed our time together. I want it to continue, but we're in the interests of appearing to return to normalcy. We're going to adjust the schedule. We'll see how that goes. Yes, so we have lots of folks here. I noticed our first visitor from Moscow, or at least the first one that I've noticed. Unfortunately, I don't know how to read Cyrillic letters, so I don't know how to pronounce his, her, or their name. But welcome, and welcome to Margaret in Augusta, Georgia, and Corrine in Pasadena. Um, MC McDonald, you're our first MC. I love MCs. By the way, have you watched the Beastie Boys um, live bio documentary on Apple Plus? I'm just, I've always been a huge fan of the Beastie Boys. I loved their book, and now they've turned it into a thing. So speaking of MC McDonald in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, home of many, I'm sure, great DJs. Who else? Jen, I hope you're back with your coffee. Uh, Ina, it's not getting to be a bird. Ina says when Danny said he planned to take Monday off and then didn't, I wonder whether this is getting to be too much for him. It isn't at all. I was planning to take Monday off because we work on Saturday, and there are union rules. Even artists are supposed to have a couple of days off. So I planned to take Monday off, and then Monday rolled around, and I thought, you know what? I miss you guys. I want to hang out. So I came back. But I am going to take tomorrow off because I promised my wife that I would. So, yes, here we go. What else do you want to know? Wilma, I'm glad to see you. I hope things are going well in Newton. And yes, so it's really nice to see all of you. So, because I'm taking tomorrow off, I thought, by the way, there's a guy with a leaf blower outside, so you might hear that noise. But because I'm taking Friday off, today's going to be selfie day. Um, but I wanted to share a couple things with you, one of which is very good news. I got my camera. So I've been deprived because all of my gear's been in New York, but I got my camera, and having my camera means I can start making some better stuff, and that's going to be something I'm going to be thinking about over the weekend. I also wanted to share with you this. So I found out about this artist. Is this really annoying? Hopefully you can't hear it. I found out about this artist whose name is Jim Batcher. He's been doing interesting art, which is he's making art in potholes. So when they come to fill a pothole, he quickly goes out and makes a mosaic in the cement before it dries. And he's been making ones that are, you know, appropriate for today's climate. So things like cans of beer, and I guess that's a star maybe related to what kind of beer is that? It feels like a beer sort of star. Purell hand sanitizer, of course, toilet paper. So yeah, so I think that was interesting to see the idea of you know turning creating public art in a whole new way, particular art um, that is apropos. So Jim Batcher, you can check him out on Instagram, and I love to see when people come up with brand new ideas like that. And so if you see anything that you think is cool that I should know about, please do send it to me. Um, Hashtag SBS Drawing Party. That's where I want to see your selfies. What else do I want to share with you today? Well, because it's a tradition, I'm going to ask you, if you'd like to sign up for my list. So every week, so far I've been pretty good about it. I've been doing it every week. I send out an essay that I've written. And I wrote a big one this week. It's going to go out to you tomorrow. So while we won't have the drawing party tomorrow at noon, Eastern Daylight, is it Eastern Daylight Time? Yeah. Um, you will be getting at that same time, you will be getting this essay that I've written. And it's about critics in a way. It's about audiences. It's about whether or not you make art for other people. Anyway, it's a long thought piece that I wrote, and we'll be sending it out to anybody who has gone to sketchbookcool.com/Danny's-list to ask me to send you stuff. So that's all I'm sending you. I'm not sending you like coupons and political messages. I'm just sending you these thoughts that I have. So if you'd like to do that, please do. And also, if you go to sketchbookcool.com/guide, you'll see what we call the coronavirus creativity guide, which is basically where we're putting all kinds of cool stuff that we've made, that we've found, that we like for you to do for free to check out. And one of the things that we have there is we are giving away free courses to essential workers. Um, we've given out hundreds and hundreds this week alone. And so if you or someone you know is an essential worker and you'd like to apply to have an art lesson so that when you have some time to kick back, you want to just refocus yourself, you can take one of our classes for free. So, and if you know anybody who would like to do that too, please share that with them as well. All right, that's about it. That's all the promotional stuff I'm going to tell you about today. And let's get ready to do to do. So Gina asked, "Will the drawing party be at the same time every day?" Yes. No, it's not. The Instagram one I think is at 8 a.m. But again, if you go to this our guide, you'll see all the information about all these things, plus links about it. Yes, you will get to have some time off. Sorry, I'm just blathering because I'm reading and talking at the same time and listening to this leaf blower. So, uh, Giselle, tell your cat that he's beautiful and that it's time to do a selfie. So, everybody get out your mirrors, get out your phones. If you want to use you can just look at your camera if you want to, or draw from, I don't know, your memory. That's generally what I'm drawing. I'm just kind of drawing like this thing that feels like it might look like me, but it's not really. I find that these days, the more intent I am upon drawing my likeness, the more untrue. That's the irony. The more I look at me, the less true this portrait seems to be, or at least the less interesting, less emotional. Um, so yes, uh, you can write in comments, and I'm aware that you're here. Although why you are unknown, I don't know. But yes, write in your comments. I'm seeing them. So, all right, here we go. I want to show you. I've been drawing these things on a regular basis. These selfies, I just kind of draw them. Um, Some of the ones I drew this week. It's kind of me with an exaggeratedly long bit of hair. And I saw somebody wearing these white glasses. Who was it? I forget, but I saw somebody wearing these white glasses. And I would never wear them, honestly, but I was interested to see what I would look like if I did. So there's that. Not sure what to say about this guy. Kind of, he looks a little stunned and he looks a little jowly. I guess that's how I was feeling a couple days ago when I drew him. This guy also looks a little stunned and a little mad. So, yeah. This guy has a stronger jawline, perhaps, but also looks a little unhappy. Let's see, maybe I can make. Oh, there's this guy. He's happier looking. All right, so maybe I should consider drawing something that looks a bit more pleasant today. Why not? So anyway, so get out your gear, whatever form it takes, digital, analog, or somewhere in between, and let's try and capture how we feel. And the leaf blower is literally outside the door. This is the hellhole I have to live in, people. Yes. Poor me. Poor me. I should be out there with a leaf blower in the baking heat instead of sitting in here whining. Sorry, guys. Okay, are we ready to draw? Are we ready? Or do you want to just watch me draw me? Let's do it. You can draw by hand, you can draw by paper, you can draw on a computer, you can draw on a telephone, you can draw on a washing machine, you can draw while leaning against an exercise bicycle. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. Who are you today? Who are you today? Let's start there. Why don't I have happy portraits? Because I'm not happy. I am happy. I'm delighted, actually. Ask whoever's inside me coming up with these ideas. It ain't me. It ain't this joyous, ebullient fellow you see here, this portly Buddha full of enthusiasm for the world. No, it's some grim ape crouching in the darkness, muttering, but drawing. So give him that. All right, my friend. Let's make you a little bit smaller. Um, no, that's incorrect. That's better. My son came to visit this week. It was certainly a highlight of this week. See my boy, see that he's alive and well. He is. He's doing great. Yeah, I wish we could see each other more. We will in time, I know, because right now at least we're sort of almost in. We actually are in the same time zone, so that's good. But I mention that because he has a beard and he's been trimming it. I, I'm not. I, maybe because his girlfriend's asked him to. I don't know. But he has been he has been trying to groom himself despite the global situation. My son's had a beard for quite a while now. It's weird. A lot of men in my family have beards. My grandfather always had a beard. My uncle has a beard. I've once or twice grown a beard and immediately decided that it was one of the worst mistakes I've made. It's fine for all those youngsters out there, like my grandfather, but it's not for me or my wife, more importantly. You know that old joke, big noses run in my family, particularly when we have colds. My grandfather had a rather large nose. Mine isn't quite as large, but yeah, we're large-nosed people, I guess. I'm going to try and make myself seem happier today. Can I do it? Sure, I can. Come on. A gifted artist. Sure, I can draw a smile. Painful smile. For you, for all of you who are concerned that I'm not sufficiently expressive. I mean, I've generally not a very smiley guy. I gotta be honest with you. I'm happy inside, though. Don't worry. Mm, yes. So why do we make self-portraits? Mm, how do you pronounce your name, my friend in Moscow? Is it? I don't know. I want to say Mapna, but that couldn't possibly be right. I like to draw self-portraits for a number of reasons, and let me tell you a bit about that. One of the reasons is that I am extremely good looking and therefore a pleasure to draw. Perhaps you are too. No, I like to draw myself because I'm available as a model. Always here whenever I feel like drawing. There's that face looking back at me. Never says, you know what, I need a break. I have to go outside and smoke a cigarette. I want to raise. No, my face is just there, happy to cooperate. And so therefore, I'm happy to, to play it, to say, all right, that's good. Let's let's draw you. So that's one reason. Availability of the model. Another reason, it helps me, and this is the more important reason, it helps me to understand where I'm at today. Self-awareness, you know? Self-awareness is a gift. I think most of us, a lot of people, I think, don't really have that gift. We don't really know what we're about. We don't spend enough time thinking really about what's going on with us. Not thinking about ourselves, but thinking about who we are. And, you know, at least that's my limited point of view. Maybe it's just because I don't do enough of it. I think it's not just narcissism, although that's probably part of it. I think it's really more that we understand ourselves, we can understand other people. I think it helps at least. But the thing about drawing self portraits is a lot of what you do, particularly if you don't worry about likeness, but you're just sort of going with it, a lot of what we're doing is unconscious. It's just kind of streaming out. And when it streams out, it can produce interesting things you hadn't necessarily known about. My God, it's getting crazy out there. So, yeah. So I find that as I let my subconscious kind of make an image, I'm sort of seeing a bit about me today. And it always seems to vary. I never know what's going to come out. And, you know, that to me is part of the pleasure of it and the purpose of it is to just sort of see what comes up. You never know. Like, I'm not really happy with this drawing at all. I don't like it. And I'm very close to dumping it. But I also want to spend a second thinking about why that is. I think it's because this line that I drew initially made me look like I have this beard. And the beard thing is bugging the hell out of me. I look like some sort of rabbinical student or something. That's an interesting thing that I thought about, right? Hello, Annette. Feel free to go to sleep. Don't let me keep you up. So yeah, so that's something to think about is what is your feeling about the drawing? Because when you don't like it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad drawing. It just means that's how you're feeling about it right now. And how you're feeling about it right now can change as you continue to contemplate it, as you continue to work on it, as you learn and discover new things. So I think I started out, you know what it is? Somebody said to me when I first started drawing this, why aren't you ever drawing yourself as happy? And my desire to satisfy that person has gotten in the way of my process. I think that's really what it is, but I don't really know. And I'll think about that later on. In the meantime, though, to hell with it, I'm making a new one. I'll do it quickly because we have spent half an hour me gabbing, but that's okay. If you'll bear with me, if you'll keep working and let me keep working, maybe I can get somewhere nicer or somewhere that feels more like what I want, you know? Whoa. So yeah, so sometimes self-awareness, that's how self-awareness comes about. You think you're one way and then you make something and maybe you discover something else. But of course, the my interpretation of my art may be wrong too. I think all too often our interpretation, we're not necessarily good critics of what we make. I think that that's something that you know, you need to think about. I remember reading a book by, I think it's Janet Malcolm's book, about, she, it was about a group of different artists that she had done profiles of. And, she was writing about how they work and what their process is. And she said something I thought was really interesting. She said that she feels obliged to talk to the artists about what they think their work is about, you know, but that generally they're really unreliable and they're not very astute. I thought that is really interesting. And in a way, it's like, I don't know if you've ever had this experience of you go to a gallery and there is the obligatory artist statement Xeroxed and stapled together in a stack by the door, and they're explaining in usually extremely pompous terms why they made what they made and what they're trying to say. A lot of times it's completely incomprehensible, and that sort of explains it. It's like, you know what? They don't actually know what the hell they're talking about. It's not their job. Their job is not to explain it. Their job is to make it. It might be the critic's job to explain it. Might be. They come along and they say, this is where this fits into the history of art, or this is where it fails in its ambitions, I guess. All right, fine. That's that's sort of their job. Again, they're not definitive, I don't think. I mean, no matter how great of a critic you are, it's still an opinion. Um, so yeah, so I think going in and analyzing your own art, even after you made it, is just it's a limited utility. I think our job is to make stuff and to focus on that, spend our time on that rather than on deciding whether it's good enough. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Maybe you're a professional art critic, in which case you might have a slightly different point of view than I do. I think art critics are. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time reading art criticism. It's not something terribly interesting to me, but I think like any sort of intellectual exercise, it can be quite useful. It can be interesting to say, okay, these are the types of things that one can think about when it comes to making art. So I think on some subliminal level, you put that into your mind, um, and maybe it comes out in some way. That's about all I think about. I find that when I was a teenager and I would try and like be really deliberate about what I was making, it was really lame. I was going to make a statement of some kind. I don't know. Again, this might be just the shortcomings of my abilities, but it just felt like working with that intention was much more useful to me, and more interesting things would come out rather than my trying to depict some idea that I'd come up with. I think that's often what we think about, like art students. Or I was having a conversation with Jack about this and about some of the art that he made when he was at art school and how that's different from the art that he's making now. And a lot of it was like pretty self-conscious, and I think he felt that way too. He was trying to sort of impress his uh, his fellow students and come up with ideas that he could defend in crit. And he doesn't feel the need to do that anymore now when he makes art. And I think he's having a lot more fun doing it. Is the art as good? I like it. I love what he makes now. I think it feels much more true to him and his perspective. But, but that's, again, a critique. So I'll avoid doing that. I find talking to you makes me stop making decisions. So I'm going to keep talking to you if you don't mind, even though what I'm saying might not be actually coherent. Um, I did have something I wanted to talk about, though. I'm trying to remember what it was, though. Oh, I know what it was. So I read this study, I read about a study recently that said that it was a study of dreams that people have been having since the pandemic began. These researchers have been asking people, "What are you dreaming about?" And what do you remember of your dreams? And what's interesting about it is that the nature of people's dreams has changed. Not permanently, but we'll see if it's permanent. But the change has been that people are somehow digging deeper into their subconscious when they make when they create dream content. So, like, in some ways, of course, the dreams are scarier and more terrified, you know. But which is understandable, right? Because they're stressed out. But also, what's also changed is, in the researchers' perspective, is that they have less stimulation. Like, what dreams, researchers believe that dreams are really the brain sort of synthesizing and um, cleaning up the memories from that day, right? So you've experienced all these different things. Your brain is kind of awash in experiences, and the dream work is kind of like going through all those memories and deciding what's worth keeping and what um, needs to be shelved. And our experience of dreams, again, if you know a lot more about dreams than I do, this might all be bullshit, but basically, what your dream is it's your conscious brain experiencing all of these memories that are being processed and thinking that they're real and combining them. So your brain is sort of going through the cleanup process, and then um, sorry, the gardening guy wanted to talk to me for some reason, but he cut down a dead tree, by the way, in the front yard today. It had to be done, but it was painful. Big tree. Anyway, so let me concentrate and explain this. So dreaming, you're experiencing all these different things during the day. You go to sleep. Your brain is sort of cleaning stuff up, deciding what's important to keep for longer term memory and what is useless. But of course, it's going through just all these experiences in, I guess, maybe in a random order. And so then your sort of semi-conscious part of your brain that's trying to apply meaning is experiencing all of these memories as if they were actually happening and converging them into some kind of a coherent story, if that makes sense. So your dream is really just this kind of shuffling of experiences and trying to make some sense out of it. So during this pandemic, people aren't having as many new experiences because they're stuck at home, So they're not interacting with other people, they're not at work, all the things obviously that we all know about. And so that's affecting the processing of these experiences that our dreams are having. And plus, I'm sure just the general sort of stress and un, you know, unfamiliarity, not unknowability, insecurity about our situation. So these things are all converging, and our dreams have a different nature than they had before. So thinking about that, I was talking to Jenny about that and saying, it would be nice to just have to see something slightly different. Like, we've really been in here, in this house, in this yard, for weeks now. I feel like maybe this weekend we need to like just go and drive around and just see something else, so that there's something else going into the pot. And I think as artists, as creative people, it's such a key part of our job, as our responsibility, our function is to have new experiences and to be processing and synthesizing them. I mean, that's what creativity is at its core. It's combining existing things into new combinations. It's not that we're creating something that's never been done before. It happens. But by and large, what we're doing is what our brains are doing. We're converging this and that and the other. So we're taking an artist whose work we admire and we're combining that with what we cooked for dinner, and then a color of a shirt we saw on the street, and then a piece of music that we heard on the radio. All these things, that's what we're making our stuff out of. We're making out of, and that's the raw material. And we have to go out and make sure that we are filling the well of inspiration, that we are getting that input, you know. So what are we going to do to ensure that that's the case? What are we doing to to fill our wells? Are we taking the proper responsibility to do that? You know, I mean, do we have the time? Are we realizing how important it is? And so that's why I think just sort of sitting around and you know, absorbing other people's creation, sitting around watching Netflix, you know, whatever it um, is depriving us of that essential raw material. That's at least what I've been thinking about. So I want to really, I mean, whether it's making pothole art or whether it's, you know, doing unfamiliar things. I think that's part of what it is too. It's like what's new that you can find to do, and how are you going to make something with that? Yeah. So our unknown friend on Facebook says, all I could think about yesterday was that I wanted new input, new views. Ended up revisiting some travel photos and painted one, but it wasn't the same. No, painting travel photos is difficult. I think perhaps allowing that allowing that experience to come back to you from the photo, putting it aside, and then trying to maybe explore those feelings might be interesting. But yeah, we need new stimulation. You know, we can't live in a cave. Our creativity withers in the dark. I guess it's that simple. So, and I think, you know, here's another thing I just thought of. What have we been seeking since this began? Comfort, right? That's what we talk about, comfort. Comfort, food. You know, I want to watch things that are not too traumatic. I want to watch things that are not unsettling. I want to talk to people who will reassure me. I want to avoid the scariness. Comfort, familiar. That's what the monkey wants. That's what that part of our brain wants that says, you know what, when things are terrifying, just give me the familiar, the safe. You know what I'm going to say next, right? That is problematic because that's not new. We're afraid of the new. And when we're afraid of the new, um, we're not getting fresh experiences. So that is something to consider. Like, are you being daring? Is this a time to be daring? Maybe it's not. Maybe what I'm telling you is actually destructive, and you shouldn't be listening to me at all. Quite likely, quite possible. But yeah, so are we ready to step out of our comfort zone? Are we ready to move away from comfort? Are we ready to get back to risk taking, which is our job? Or is that not the time yet? Are we not ready for that? I have the feeling that if we're having these kinds of dreams, or if we're not allowing our art to flow freely, then maybe that is a problem. That is a problem. Just a thought. Um, I see that some people are talking. Let me just see if I can respond to some of the thoughts that you have. Um, Heather wants to go out for a drive, but her weekly-ish grocery bank run takes a lot out of her. As a germaphobe, this is a seriously scary time. I think, just so you know, Heather, it's scary for non-germaphobes. I'm not particularly germaphobic, but I understand. I think it's, again, I think so much of this is also about perception. There's no question that there's a legitimate fear. There's a legitimate thing to fear, but um, as the Buddha said, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So much of it comes down to what is our reaction to it, and I'm not suggesting that your reaction is inappropriate, but it is limiting, as is mine. I mean, I'm an anxious and neurotic person too, and it can really hold you back from new experiences. But if your goal, if you say to yourself, if I take risks, um, it will inspire my art in some new way, and that will give me pleasure and make me feel more confident and um, more happy. Then maybe that motivation will allow you to advance the boundaries. And I'm not talking about going to the bank. I'm talking about trying to make something you've never made before, or exposing yourself to some kind of content or artist that you never thought you would like. I think that's part of what it is, really. Like, we live in a time where you can afford to take risks. You can afford to do stuff because A, nobody's really watching. B, in some ways, we have less to lose. And I was thinking about the fact that when you watch these zombie apocalyptic TV shows and movies, how do people react? Like, their whole focus seems to be on survival. But you rarely will see somebody say, I should really take this time to read more. While the zombies are out there, this is really a great opportunity for me to work on some new business ideas. Or, I think, I mean, you might want to do some more exercising just because it'll help you to run faster. But generally, self-improvement and those kinds of things don't really come into play when people are in those um, hardcore survivalist modes. Maybe that's an indication that maybe we're not, because we are thinking beyond it. I don't know. I like this idea that JJW says, we have a row of poppies. Nearly every day I go examine the changes in the buds. It offers me tremendous excitement and joy. I understand that. I spend a lot of time watching the birds out here. I've learned a lot about how they fly. Like, I've realized how incredibly differently different birds fly. Some are incredible flyers. I mean, hummingbirds, seeing what they can do. They're like stunt car drivers. But then you'll watch like a quail, and it's like, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. It can barely fly at all. Um, and then there are some birds that are just so graceful and beautiful. So I find that nature, as always, is a great source of comfort, but also learning, trying new stuff, new different things. Um, and he says, taking risks in life creates an abundant life and much more creativity. Exactly, exactly. Kim cites a quote. I have read a quote and have no idea who wrote it, but it was said, what would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? I can tell you, we wouldn't exist. If we don't take risks, then we can't come up with solutions to problems. It's that simple. So we would die. Our ancestors were risk takers. The people who didn't take risks, didn't survive to pass on their genes. We are all descended from risk takers. And we live in a time of constant change, not just the pandemic, but the last 150 years, probably the last 20,000 years. Change is endemic. Change is everywhere. We have to be able to respond to change. We can't remain the way we are. We have to always be thinking of new things and ways to respond to climate change, ways to respond to changing relationships with other people, ways to respond to economic vagaries. We have to be able to change. We have to be able to respond. And the way that we learn to do that is by bringing in input that gives us new ideas. If we don't have that stimulation, if we aren't reading history, if we aren't looking at literature, if we aren't trying out new foods, if we aren't, you know, teaching our kids that it's okay to try new things sometimes within certain limits, then we're not preparing ourselves to come up with ideas and solutions. And it's up to all of us, as we see now, it's up to all of us to be responsible for these changes in our lives. Mom and dad aren't going to take care of us. Government may or may not take care of us. Um, you know, we're all in this. We all have to decide what we're going to do. And so we have to consider the limits of our fear. We have to decide how much risk we can take, or we have to just try boldly to try to do stuff. And that's, again, coming back to what it is to be a creative person. This is why I keep incessantly banging on about this word creativity, which has become, I think, an old saw these days. It's become overly familiar, overly and misused. Creators. I'm a creator. Um, but it is an essential life skill that we're never really taught in any kind of organized way. And so it's up to us to learn about it, to read about it, to see what other artists do, what other creative people do, inventors, what do they do in their lives? And how can we apply not necessarily the exact processes that they use, although those are good to know about, but also the mindset of an adventurer, of an explorer, even a germophobic one. Our president is a germaphobe, but he seems to have taken risks, for better or for worse. So yes, it's possible to be both. Deb says, as a 67-year-old in several high-risk groups, I'm a bit concerned, but since I'm doing everything I can to protect myself, I'm not overly worried. I think that's probably the best way to protect yourself, honestly. And I think over time we're getting used to our anxiety, right? We're getting used to it. We're realizing the limits of being horribly worried all the time. Yeah. Jen makes a good point. The characters that read more are usually the ones that survive almost to the end of the film. Almost to the end of the film. Do you remember that? Speaking of book readers, did you ever see that episode of The Twilight Zone about the guy who was an avid reader? It's like this little mousy guy with big thick glasses who loved to read, and his job is working in a bank. And he goes into the bank vault to sneak a little reading episode. I think during lunchtime, he's in the bank vault reading some novel, and this worldwide disaster happens while he's in the bank, in the safe, and everybody is killed. And he emerges from the dust, comes out of the safe. He's been protected by being in there with his book, and he goes out and he realizes that everybody is gone, and it's like his dream come true. He's the last man on earth, and he has all the time in the world to read. And he goes to the New York Public Library, I think it is. He's like so excited because there's just endless books and endless time, and nobody's going to interrupt him, and it's just fantastic. And then his glasses slip off his nose and smash on the floor. Yeah, but he's the last man alive. Maybe. Um, all right. Well, Heather says it reminds me of the Star Trek Next Generation episode where Q showed Picard what his life would have been like if he hadn't done the things that nearly killed him years earlier. I've never really watched much of Star Trek. I probably should, but that, I mean, that's also it's a Wonderful Life, right? So yes. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today, um, and I won't see you tomorrow, but I look forward to seeing whatever selfies you post. Look at the selfie of me now that I'm looking at it. Very kind of pale, bewildered looking. They're always interesting, these drawings. I mean, I don't know quite what to make of them, but maybe one day I will. Maybe someday somebody else will. Maybe nobody ever will. Maybe one day I'll drop my iPad and they'll all be gone. Who knows? Um, Andres, you're a buzzkill. It's true. Maybe he can. But how can he find it? He doesn't have glasses. He can't see. They were very thick. All right. Well, I will see you all, strangely enough, on Tuesday. Now, here's what I will say. I will be seeing you less often, but I will be seeing you better, like the man with the thick glasses. I will be seeing you, I will be able to clear some space in my head. I'll be able to fill my well. So when I do see you, I will be full of positive energy. Let's see how my selfies change. Let's see how yours do too. And in the meantime, have have a weekend. Make it thus, as opposed to just more days that flow by. Try and make something special with it. I think I will. And let's see what next week brings. Join Kosha, if you would, on Monday on Instagram. And let's have another party on Tuesday. Thanks so much for being with me today. And I look forward to seeing your work if you put hashtag SBS Live on it. Is that what it is? Let's see. It is SBS Drawing Party. Sorry, I'm not sure. I lost my mind there for a minute. It's hashtag SBS Drawing Party. Share. I want to see you. I want to see what you look like in your mind. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend.